to Outlier on Air. Today we are in Salt Lake City, Utah at the WorkHive co-working space. We're with Shalae Larsen and Mark Morris. Thank you so much for welcoming us in.
Thanks for being here. This is exciting.
Thanks.
Yeah, this is great. We're right here downtown in Salt Lake City. We've got an amazing view behind you. So if you turn around real quick, but we've got some windows where we're looking down on the street. It's gorgeous right in the middle of Salt Lake City, Utah. We're in this co-working space, which is really dedicated mostly toward creatives. Is that right?
Well, the space is open to any number of entrepreneurs, independent business owners, but we really tried to create a studio type of environment that was creative space because we feel like creative people like to be around other creative people.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you get this really cool synergy that happens, and all of our work just gets better.
It's a format that a lot of creatives are very comfortable with, and clearly cubicles are no one's ideal work station, and so we wanted to keep it as open studio as possible for creative collaboration and relationship building.
Kind of like the studio environment that we both enjoyed in architecture school.
Yeah, so tell me about this. You both own separate landscape architect companies. Tell me a little bit about each of your companies and how that came to be.
Well, Mark and I actually go way back. We were both in school at the same time at Utah State University. And actually Mark's business partner, Melanie Anderson, went to high school with my husband. So, so we go way, it's very incestuous sort of relationship.
And you still like each other, so
oh,
that's good.
But basically we were both running and operating really small independent companies concurrently in different locations. I've mainly been based out of Ogden. I also teach at the University of Utah as an adjunct faculty, and so on the days that I came to Salt Lake, I was working out of coffee shops, and it was kind of ridiculous. So I talked to Mark and said, hey, what if we pooled our resources and found something that together we could afford, and then at the same time that kind of we sort of that what's the word?
Partnered up together. It sounds like it was a mutually beneficial situation.
Yeah. Well, we realized once we had the space that there was room for more people and more creative types, and then that would, offset our rent.
Right. I love, it is. You walk right in, and it's a very creative feel with the architecture type tables. And so, tell me a little bit about your business.
So I started Vota about 5 years ago with my business partner Melanie, and we had all been landscape architect students together. Melanie and I started our business in 2010, and we kind of looked for a space like this. We were thinking, surely there's got to be an office out there somewhere where we can, have really low rent and have a space that we can work in, separated from working from home a little bit. And we just couldn't find anything in 2010. So we were both, working from home, very separate, and then when Shalae and I connected in about 2012, we were both to the point where in order to take our business up to kind of the next level, we needed to have an office space, a studio to work in to really kind of get the business where we wanted it to be. And so we kind of said, well, let's create a space that, the space that we had been looking for when we originally opened our business, to kind of create our own work studio.
Well, and the logic of that was, if we need this kind of space, there's other people out there that are going through the same thing that we're going through that also need this kind of space.
So you have your team here, and you have some of your team members here. Obviously, your business partner is out today. But how has this been working with two companies where essentially you're in the same industry, but you're working side by side? Any struggles there at all, or smooth sailing?
Smooth sailing so far. We've teamed up to go after some work together, and actually it's really great to have other landscape architects around, because when I'm trying to specify a specific plant or looking for new ideas or trying to just get a critique on what I'm working on, it's great to have a few others here that I can just say, hey, can you take a minute and look at this and tell me what you see? If I've been looking at it so long, can you just look at it for a minute and tell me if you have any thoughts on how I can improve this?
Do you ever deal with competition? Are you competitors at all, or do you have completely different clientele?
We compete from time to time, but I think we get along pretty well.
I don't see the punching bag.
I think we're pretty unique. We each really have our own sense of identity and our own little market sector that we serve. Although on the things that we've gone after together, it's been perfect because there's been this kind of overlap. that we're both bringing something to the table that makes us really,
It makes the team more competitive.
yeah, more competitive.
So for those business owners that are in a similar situation, they need a space and perhaps they found someone else who also needs a space. Do you recommend this model? I mean, this co-working space is cozy. There's 2 lines of desks. We'll see this in a walkthrough on our Bones video. So it's relatively small, it's cozy, it's large enough for both of your companies. It works well, but is this something that you recommend to other business owners, and when would you not recommend that situation?
Well, our target market really is people who were kind of in our same situation, that they've had their business for maybe a couple of years, they're established, they have some business, some cash flow, and are looking for a space to move into to kind of separate that home office from a workspace. So that's really our target. I don't know that I would recommend opening up a studio like this to someone who's just, in the first week of starting your business, because really our goal here is that we sort of take out all of that management, that the people don't have to find a space to rent, they don't have to worry about making their rent payment every month, they don't have to worry about furnishing an office or setting up internet or printers or all of that. So I think a space like this worked really well for us because we already had a business that was thriving, and it was pretty successful, and we had just gotten to the point where we thought we would be willing to invest some time and money in
Yeah.
a shared studio
Did
space.
you actually screen? Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that, although if you are a startup, there's something to be said for getting out of your house and out
For
of your
sure.
bathrobe and away from all of your chores. I think it will really help you get your business to the next level. And the fact that, it's a pretty low commitment, any other office space that you would be looking at, you'd have to sign some sort of long-term lease, and you're on
Right.
the hook for all of that money. This is like, $200 a month, and
Yeah, we try to keep the barrier to entry pretty low, so that when you're a startup or a new business, you kind of have this constant, dread of, am I going to make it?
Yeah.
So at least I found in my business that having this separate space from my home office is I'm much more productive. When I'm here, there's a little bit of social pressure to, be productive and keep on task. So it's definitely more productive, even with added costs, it's more productive to be in a space like this.
What were your barriers in creating this space over and above just renting your own office?
We spent quite a bit of time looking for the right office because we wanted it to be, a fun, well-designed office space that when you're in a design industry, your workspace is kind of part of your brand. So we looked at a few offices, and we wanted to find one that it wasn't just, a real simple plain office in the, suburban
You're
office
creatives.
building.
You need to have a good.
Yeah, we
creative
found
space.
this space, and it was, it's an old warehouse downtown, and it
Mhm.
has a lot of the kind of old, it feels like an old building we really liked. So it took a while to find the right space. And
Was it costly up front to kind of do the remodeling that you needed?
ours was actually pretty inexpensive, and splitting the costs was a big part of it because neither one of us wanted to take that on to deal with all of those costs, and so splitting the costs was a big motivator. That it was manageable if we were only dealing with 50% of the cost.
that's part of the minimalist aesthetic too, though.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not just, artsy and
Right.
cool, it's also less cost effective, or it's more cost effective in terms of setting up the space.
Yeah, so if an entrepreneur is looking to start something like this up in their city, that's a really great way to do it, is to keep it simple and keep
Right.
the costs low, because you don't want to take on too much and then
Yeah.
fail because you're out of money.
Yeah.
The space I originally envisioned was even rougher than this. It was like some warehouse with, sawhorses and,
Yeah. Oh, really?
and plywood tabletops, and just really funky and dirty, but
These are
it's
popping
probably a little
up.
more professional.
These are popping up all over the world out of
Sure.
necessity here. I mean, the 2 things I'm seeing are we've got business owners who already have businesses such as yourself, who already have cash flow, as you said, that really just come together out of necessity and really out of it being a better situation, and then benefit some of the others in the community that could use that extra space. And then you have the startups that may or may not have cash flow, that are all coming together just to get out of their bathrobes, like you said, and to mix and to really get more business with each other and get that going. So it sounds like, at least from what I've learned, there's 2 business models with the co-working space, and we've seen both. So as far as this goes, it sounds like from when you jumped in, you already had your cash flow in place. I think one of the big questions is, how do you finance this? How do you get this going? A lot of people try to use perhaps like city money or university money, you know.
Yeah, we didn't look to anybody else for our
Just pony to
for our
that.
start. Yeah.
How long did it take you to get tenants?
It was a few months. Our space, the space you see now, at one time we had half of this space, and so the smaller.
If you can imagine.
If you can imagine a
And
small.
not this way, but like the lengthwise of the room.
It was
right?
kind of a big hallway that we were working in. We only had 6 workspaces.
Yeah.
So.
And we thought it was great, but people would come and look at the space, and they'd kind of take one look and then leave, and we'd never hear back from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's having the larger studio has definitely been a good thing. We're looking to expand even more to have a little bit larger space. But we tried, like I said, we tried to keep it as minimalist as possible, to not overcommit, and to make sure that we kind of have the cash flow to keep it up and running.
Yeah, we did some little rent performas right off the bat. We said, what is our lease? Worst case scenario, what are we on the hook for? How many people do we need in the space to break even? How many people do we need to actually, make a little bit of profit? I mean, neither of us are going to retire on this.
Yeah, it's more to have the studio to come to every day and work in, and get, have coworkers that you can work with and bounce ideas off of.
Right.
Although I think the model is a really good model, and we've talked about expanding it and having different locations. There's definitely a market for it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that in the last few months I've had a lot of inquiries from people moving to Salt Lake from out of state,
Yep.
and they are all very familiar with the co-working model. They all say, well, you should check out the space in my city, that
Sure.
this is what they do. So
Sure.
I think that it's definitely, it's worldwide. All of our social media, anything that we do on social media, I find that people from Russia, people from Greece, there's all of these cities and countries all over that have exactly the same thing. For some
Right.
reason, Australia is really huge into co-working.
Right. It's a natural progression, especially as the startup culture is getting really huge.
Yeah, and I think that the economics of the world are such that there are just a lot of, kind of decentralizing of business and people that are freelancing and working on their own. So
Right.
And with technology, I mean, you can
Yeah.
run a full-fledged office with very little resources and very little upfront costs. So why not? Why not, take charge of your own life and
right.
be the master of your own destiny?
Absolutely. Fantastic. I love it. Fly the flag.
Outliers, are you chomping at the bit to get your products and services out to the world and really boost your sales? 2 of the most common worries that we hear from entrepreneurs at all levels are handling social media and search engine optimization. We all know that there are services out there to provide this for you, but the question is, who do you trust with your brand and your valuable cash to do it right? If you've heard my friend Anthony Tran from Marketing Access Pass on Outlier on Air before, you'll know that he is a true expert. After he presented on Outlier on Air, we got an awesome response because his knowledge really resonates with entrepreneurs. Anthony and his team at Marketing Access Pass provide done-for-you services for social media and SEO so that you can focus your efforts on the strategic activities of your business. We also have negotiated great rates for Outliers, so go to outliermagazine.co and click on resources at the top to take control of your social media and search engine optimization today.
Okay, so a question about your individual businesses. You both have companies that seem to be doing well, that you were able to open and renovate this space together and even expand it a little bit, and you're looking to expand more. That's wonderful. We want to learn from you from that perspective as well. So if you wouldn't mind, each of you, I'd like to ask you individually. So Shalae, if you can tell me, in your own business, you've come to this point. Number one, how old is your business?
Mm-hmm. Well, my company actually dates back to 2006 when my business partner and I both started working independently at the same time, but we were kind of doing what Mark and I are doing now, is we were collaborating on a lot of different things.
Okay.
And then we actually formalized the company in 2008.
Okay.
So that's how old I am.
And have you been through, has the business really just grown and grown, or have you been through a major struggle in your business that has really taught you to be sustainable the way that you are now?
Well, our company is a little unique in that we started at the same time that I was going back to school to get my master's in architecture, and my business partner was taking a leave of absence to be the Southern Utah liaison for the Utah Heritage Foundation because she has this particular passion and interest for historic preservation.
Sure.
So, you know, we were really just picking up side work here and there, and nothing full-fledged or really, professional level at that point. But once we put our minds to it in last year, she came back from her sabbatical. I finally, got my act together, and we just said, let's do this. We hired some employees. We're kind of
So really, you got serious a year ago.
Yeah, I think it's really just buckling down and deciding that, this is what we're passionate about, and this is the work, the projects that we do and the work that we do. We actually have a mission statement at our company. We kind of run it like a nonprofit in a way. It obviously is for profit. But first and foremost, our mission is to create, beautiful, sustainable places for people to enjoy and that really incorporate nature into them. So we don't feel like we're going to work every day. We feel like we're on this mission to save the world. And then in the process, we get to make money at it.
Right.
So we're still working on the making money side of it, as with any startup.
Who isn't? But so you really got serious and buckled down a year ago. What was holding you back before then?
Well, finishing grad school,
Okay.
and then I actually had cancer. So
Really? That's
yeah.
a whole interview in and of itself.
Yeah, that's a whole other interview, but I'm all clear now.
Congratulations.
So thank you.
Yay. That's fantastic. Well, good to hear. And then how about you? How long has you mentioned it in the beginning of the interview, but how many years has it been?
Going on five years.
Okay.
My business partner Melanie Schmidt and I started Vota in 2010.
Okay.
And I had always wanted to start my own business at some point in my career. 2010 in the architecture world was a real low point. The recession just slammed all construction industries really hard. So I worked at a larger firm, made it through several rounds of layoffs, and in 2010 I got laid off just right after Christmas, which was really great.
We could have a whole layoff story show.
Yeah, and really I launched into freelance almost immediately. My business partner Melanie got laid off from the firm that she was at about 3 months later, and she and I, we spoke a few times and kind of talked about, would you be interested in, giving it a go, to try to have a small business and see what happens. So a few months later, we incorporated Vota and started going after work, and here we are a little bit over 4 years later.
Has it been a struggle to build that out of,
Sure.
like you said, that recession?
Sure. Starting a small business, you're always starting from almost zero.
Has there ever been a time when you didn't know if you could stay open?
Sure. You bet. 2010 was pretty.
And that's when you started.
Pretty thin, yeah. And it was definitely a struggle to make it through, but it was kind of, we realized it was going to be incremental. It was going to take some time. So 2011 was a little better than 2010, and 2012 was a little bit better, and we've gotten to where we are now, and kind of, holding on with your fingernails, but you make it through, and then it's a little, having worked for other people and working for myself, the working for yourself, it's kind of, you feel a little bit different about your work, that it's like, this is me, and if it's going to happen, it's got to be through my effort.
So can you tell me, was there a specific behavior or approach that you took to gaining traction in that low point in the market? What do you attribute that to?
Persistence, I would say. I mean, and kind of not saying no. If work came in the door, it didn't matter what it was. If someone wanted to pay me to do work, it was like, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
So we have, it's interesting looking at a lot of our landscape architecture work is residential, and in 2010 we did a lot of marketing, and 2011 we did a little bit less, and really we haven't done a lot of marketing for that service just because we've gotten so many referrals that it kind of is self-sustaining. So I think as a small business, it's all about making sure that your clients that you're working with now are happy, because you never know who they're going to talk to, and when the phone rings and someone says, I got your name from so-and-so, that makes me really happy, because it means that someone out there is saying, hey, talk to these people, they know what they're doing. So hopefully I'm doing something right.
Fantastic. Well, okay, so closing question for both of you. In this industry, this is not a new industry. This isn't like all based on just technology necessarily. You're in this, I would call it a classic industry, I guess. But there are elements of the industry that are always changing, I imagine, and there are always people entering the industry and trying to really take market share. What are you doing to stay competitive and to keep your business healthy?
Are we talking about the co-working industry or the?
Let's go with
landscape
your
market?
specific businesses.
Sure. I think, social media really has changed a lot of industries. I think for me, I use social media quite a bit
Okay.
because I find that clients will go online and try to find, where I am, and I want to be, if
Front and
they go
center.
online, I want to make sure that they can find my work. And as a designer, there's so many platforms out there to get your work out there and let people see what you're doing. Landscape architecture is an interesting business because every client, you have to educate them on what it is that a landscape architect does.
Sure.
It's, you have to go in and assume that they don't really know exactly what your role is, and so you have to kind of walk them through that process. And so if they can go online, if they go on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, if I have my work out there, they can kind of look through it and they get a sense for, oh, this is what they do, and I want that service. So I found Instagram is a really great way to get work out there because it is primarily visual. And I've gotten work through it. I have a lot of referrals that come through that because people can get online and see exactly what that final product
Great
looks
point.
like.
I think a lot of professionals, especially outside of the online marketing industry, feel overwhelmed with social media and maybe want to just drop it all together because it just feels like, maybe a big jumbled mess. But I think it's very relevant to bring up the fact that you found the channels that work for you, where your customers are hanging out, that are effective. And
Right,
so
you can't be everything to everyone. You
Right.
kind of have to choose, this is the thing that I have found is most effective. The great thing with a lot of online platforms is that a lot of them cross over really well.
Yeah.
So our website and my Instagram feed, it kind of feeds right into my website. So I don't really have to update the website as long as I'm putting things on
Right.
Instagram. And hashtags, everyone hates hashtags, but the fact is they work. And so if someone goes online and starts looking for landscape design,
Yeah.
I want them to be able to find me. So just using lots of hashtags.
I love hashtags.
making
Just
sure.
not when people go, hashtag, can't do that.
So I think it's definitely, for your industry, you need to find what is the platform that is going to be the most effective.
Great point.
So you need
Yep.
to make sure, as designers, using visual things. Pinterest has really changed my process with clients. Pinterest and House, if I walk in and they say, I have a House account and I have found all of these things I like that I want my landscape design to look like, that saves me a ton of time trying to guess kind of
Absolutely.
where they are. So it really has changed a lot of the way that I work, just because if they are sort of doing their homework on what they like design-wise,
Right.
that helps me with our process.
Great point. Do you have something to add to that?
Well, we definitely don't. I mean, we have a social media marketing program in place, but we definitely don't rely on it quite as much. I would say our main focus. Have you heard the term Social-Preneurship by any chance?
I've heard everything entrepreneurship.
It's basically this idea that people want to spend their money with businesses that are local, that support the local economy, that give back to the community. We encourage all of our employees to go out and spend time in the community volunteering, which also ties back to that educational component. So we're volunteering at community gardens and telling people about landscape architecture while also volunteering our services, which also gets us out there in the community. It gets us, face time with a lot of important people and decision makers. So I think that's really been a driving force, a driving factor for our company. Also, the old school companies, the old guard was really about the company, and we were all just, slaves to the company. The individual didn't matter. And part of the IO is I in Italian, or it's actually EO in Italian. It's about the individual. The I is the individual, and the O is the whole, the collective. So we're we're a team of individuals, and we really try to highlight that on all of our projects. It's not about IO. It's you are getting these people. You're getting my expertise. You're getting Rachel. You're getting Susan. You're getting these specific people, and we all have these unique backgrounds and qualities that we bring to the team. So that's really been, you know, key for us, and obviously we highlight that. We also do love social media, especially Pinterest, because
Right.
we make
Very
boards for
visual.
all of our projects
Absolutely. It's
and
easy
stuff
to
like
access.
that. But
You two seem to be very well partnered, well matched in not just the co-working space is a win, but also you, as you said, you ask each other's opinion, help each other out. I think this is a great example of separate businesses that can partner up and help each other in several ways. So
there's this old, I mean, everyone asks us that. We're like, you're competitors, don't you? You know, isn't there like this clash? And I think, again, that's kind of the old guard. That's that old mentality that it's all, you know, that everything's a competition. And I really am a firm believer that a rising tide floats all boats. And if we're both out there doing good work, educating the community about what landscape architecture is, bringing the profession up as a whole, we're going to make, you know, life better for both of our businesses.
great point.
So,
Yeah, great.
That's a great theme for this interview, so we appreciate that. Thank you so much for welcoming us in. We are about to go take a look at your space and walk through it. So go to outliermagazine.co. You'll see the walkthrough and all the show notes and links. But if you'll tell us each of your businesses' URL so that we can go see you individually, and then how to get to the co-working space website as well.
Sure. Our website is votaplan.com,
Okay.
and the WorkHive URL is workhiveslc.com.
Okay.
We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and search for WorkHive, and hopefully you'll find us.
Awesome. And yours?
and our website is iolandarc.com. And the WorkHive website is
workhiveslc.com.
Right. So you got it twice. We're good. So thank you so much. We appreciate you welcoming us in this beautiful area of Salt Lake City. You're right here downtown. And thank you so much. We'll go and go through the walkthrough.
Okay.
Thank
All right,
you.
meet us online.